Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Time for some more creepy videos. So let's have a look.
Have you ever wondered if time travellers are real? Well, here are some images that people say have caught time travellers in the act. This photo was taken in 1941 at the reopening ceremony of the South Fork Bridge in British Columbia. And just off to the right, you can see a man who appears to be dressed in modern clothing and sunglasses, looking very out of place from the rest of the people. However, I think it looks like Ryan Reynolds, but that's just my opinion. This image dates back to over 100 years ago and shows a lot of smartly dressed Canadians. However, to the left, there is a man sitting on the rocks in a t-shirt and shorts. He doesn't match anybody else in the photo and looks like the guy that skateboards to your school. This photo was taken during the war in 1943, and the man circled looks like he's talking on his phone, which weren't invented back then. And the way he's looking at the camera makes him look sus, as if he's been caught, maybe by another time traveller. The dabbing World War II soldier. So this photo was taken during World War II, and you can clearly see a man dabbing, unfortunately. And dabbing was a dance move that became very popular in 2014, so way after this photo was taken. But if you was a time traveller, where would you go?
Logic suggests that even if you can travel into the future, we'll never know.
Oh, you can travel into the future?
Yes, but
even in Einstein's theory, as far as you want.
Yes, but no one will actually do it because it would require a great scientific effort and a lot of money, but no one would ever be able to prove
we do it.
That they'd been in the future.
It's been proved. So moving clocks run slow.
Has it been proved?
Yes, moving clocks run slow relative to stationary ones. So if you were to run across this studio now and run back and sit down, and we measured the time on your watch very accurately, it would your watch relative to mine would have run slower. And that's actually central to the way the satellite navigation system works. It requires to be so that's true, and that's part of Einstein's theory.
But you couldn't, or you wouldn't. Let's say the scientific community wouldn't do this. Take a human being and try and put them into the future.
I'd do it.
Because what would be the point of it?
Well, no, you do that. You just do. But if you, let's say you fly, I know a number, which is the speed the protons go around the Large Hadron Collider. So they go around the Large Hadron Collider at 99.999999% the speed of light. At that speed, time passes 7,000 times more slowly for the protons than it does for the experimenters sat watching them going round, and that's relativity. So every time someone gets on a rocket and goes to the moon and comes back, their time will have passed slightly more slowly than the people on Earth. Therefore, they'll have gone into the future.
In 1980, a Japanese journalist filmed an iPhone, specifically an iPhone 13, and this video is resurfacing on the internet. It is creating an incredible buzz. So in fact, this show was filmed in 1980, and it was around Hiroshima. You know that in Hiroshima there was a bomb in 1945. The entire city was deserted, obviously, because of the radiation. And actually, the show is about them going back to the place to see all the abandoned houses, the objects that were there, etc. And actually, at the time, the guy thinks it's a mirror because theoretically the iPhone did not exist in 1980. And yet they did indeed find an iPhone 13. And that's the most worrying part, that no one can explain how in 1980 the journalist could have found an iPhone. And the guy is puzzled by the thing because he doesn't know what it is. He really thinks it's a mirror, so who can explain this glitch in the Matrix, please? I've checked the sources, it's really a video from 1980. You can look it up on the internet.
In the 1995 boxing match between Mike Tyson and Peter McNeely, an audience member can be seen holding a very strange looking device. It appears that this man is recording the match with a smartphone. Obviously smartphones didn't exist in 1995, and camera phones weren't even introduced until 2000. The video was uploaded to YouTube and it blew up, getting around 5 million views. A lot of people claimed it was a 1995 Casio camera, but people have responded to this by stating that the colors aren't 100% similar, and also asking the question, why would he record vertically? But to be honest, why does anyone record vertically?
The time travel paradox is something that has baffled me for years and years and years. I can't quite grasp it. I think in these videos it kind of explains a little bit. I wasn't fully aware that scientists and professors are quite confident about being able to travel forwards in time, but the theory about traveling backwards in time is quite impossible. This kind of helps in my way of thinking, that if we was somehow to be able to travel back in time, if you kind of did something like accidentally killed your great grandfather or your great great grandfather, then you wouldn't have been able to have been born, so you wouldn't have been able to travel back in time. So that kind of paradox has baffled me for years. The only thing that I can think of is possibly if you did that, it would sort of branch a different timeline, but you could talk about this for hours and hours and hours and still get nowhere. So the idea that traveling forwards in time is a possibility is quite an interesting one. These scientists seem quite confident that this is something that is possible. I don't know how. See, my theory is, well, I like the idea of time being a flat disk. It's time is in a circular motion, starts at one end and it will finish at another end, and then it will just continue on a loop. I kind of like this idea. I've always liked this idea since I first heard about it. Joe Rogan, they're talking about the possibility that aliens are sort of our future selves. I like this idea. I really do like this idea. And it's something that I've thought about myself. But then this kind of contradicts the idea that we can't travel back in time. So it's a real tough one. I mean, I read once that if time travel is possible, then it will happen. And if it has happened, then it will happen. So we'd know about it by now. So, I mean, if it has happened, if it is possible to travel back in time, I think we'd know about it by now because we would have been visited. But in these videos, like the Mike Tyson fight, the guy with the phone that looked kind of like an iPhone. Was this just some sort of obscure camera that was around back in the 90s? The videos going back further, sort of the black and white films, they are interesting. They definitely look like they're talking on some sort of device, but they might not have been talking on anything. The guy with the t-shirt on, he did look sort of a bit different to everyone else, but I don't know, he might have just been ahead of his time with his fashion. So yeah, time travel to me, I think it's dangerous, to be honest with you. I think it's very dangerous. So I think, I think we're sort of best to steer clear of this. But travelling forward could be interesting. That could be an interesting thing. Have people done this already? So certainly you could argue that certain billionaires could have had the technology to travel forwards and find out certain things. And so, yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm not fully sold on it yet, but the theories work. So you never know. Could have happened already.
What happened to Marc Marcum, the guy that built a time travel machine and then disappeared? In 1995, this guy Marc Marcum was playing around building a machine called a Jacob's ladder. This is what a Jacob's ladder looks like. It's essentially two metal rods with a spark going between them. But after he built it, a vortex on the small machine he built appeared at the top. Mike then put a screw through it, and the screw actually disappeared and reappeared a few seconds later, but was further away. So essentially the screw teleported or time traveled. Now Mike knew what he had and he wanted to do this on scale. He wanted to make one that was a lot bigger. The problem is to get enough power to do so is going to be very expensive. He wrote up his plans and he went to a local city transformers electric park, claiming that he needed 20,000 volts of electricity to power this. Went to the transformers, he plugged in his machine, and said he caused a citywide blackout. Police then came shortly after and arrested him, and the judge put him in jail for 2 months. This guy named Art Bell finds out about his story and invites him onto his radio show. Mike comes on the show, talks about his experience, talks about what he was doing, and it blows up. Art's audience is going crazy, asking him questions. Mike is answering every single question. Actually find the live recordings of these, they're all posted online. He goes over his whole story about how he was just trying to build a fancy Jacob's ladder and accidentally built the time travel machine. And Art asked him if he did go into the future, what would he bring? In which Mike answered he would only bring a cell phone with him. The story blew up. People were donating electric parts, money. He had hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of electric parts to fund his next machine if he was building one. A few years later after the story, Art decides to reach back out to Mike, like, what's he up to? Calls all of his old connections that he reached out to get Mike in the first place, you know, parents, family, everybody, and nobody has seen him. He gets in touch with one of Mike's old friends. Friend told Art that Mike was building one last machine for one last experiment in which Mike would actually be going through the vortex. The story kind of ends there, but there is one weird coincidence that happened afterwards when they were looking at old arrest records and police reports to see if there's any coincidences. On a California beach in the 1930s, the police found a giant strange metal tube with a man crushed inside. Inside the tube, the man was unrecognizable. They found a strange, mysterious, like, technological device. It did mention that if he did time travel, he would only bring a cell phone. So a lot of people are predicting that he actually died in the 1930s, went back in time. So it's a very curious case of time travel. In my opinion, the question shouldn't be what happened to him or where is he now. The question should be, when is he now? What time period is he in now?
What were you trying to do in the first place?
Originally, I just set out to make a fancy Jacob's ladder, and this was like what it turned out to be.
A lot of people don't know what a Jacob's ladder is. Tell them what it is.
Simply, in a nutshell, it's two metal rods with a spark going up in between it.
He decided that if he got enough electricity together, he could build a time machine, because there is the concept that if you're going to do it, it's going to require an enormous amount of energy.
Yeah, until it got roughly 20,000 volts.
20,000 volts?
Yeah.
So you went from 110 to 20,000?
Yeah, roughly. Right above it, there was a regular heat signature, but it was like almost kind of like circular shaped in the center. See, I didn't know what this thing was, and it was like, I don't know, I just got the notion to throw a screw in it to see like what it did.
So you threw a screw into the circular area?
I've talked to a couple of physicists, but they call it a vortex, but...
All right, you threw it into what we'll call the vortex.
Yeah.
All right, what happened to the screw?
I threw it in there, and I didn't see it after that.
It disappeared?
Yeah, roughly. It's like it freaked me out. At first, I thought I was seeing things. He did one or two things. It went half a second into the future, and then it caught up with it, or it made like a real intense magnetic field.
I've interviewed the people who did the Philadelphia experiment, Michael.
That's what the Montauk Project is.
You're messing with the same sort of stuff.
But I figure if I make a bigger one, it'd send it farther. That way I could really, like, tell if it's, like, really, like, if I was, like, sending it through time or if I was just sending it through an intense magnetic field.
In order to get enough voltage and current, you needed a big transformer. Power company has big transformers.
Yeah.
Really nice ones.
Yeah.
How did it dawn on you to borrow several of the power company's transformers?
I was originally going to buy them. Like, there's a transformer company in Kansas City that makes them for the power company.
Well, there was an idea.
I could have, like, saved my money and bought those, but those are expensive.
So you got the transformers to your house. You hooked up to the power coming into your home?
Yeah.
According to the story, you had two big poles on your porch. Is that correct?
Yeah, 3/8-inch metal rods, roughly 4 feet.
Oh, that would have made a big spark.
Yep. Yeah, I hooked up the smallest one that I could hook up without, like, overloading the cable and causing a fire.
What happened?
Just that in itself is just like a giant Jacob's ladder.
When you did this, according to the newspaper, you blacked out or browned out portions of your whole town. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was like overloading the power grid because I was drawing more power than I thought it was. A lot of those people's television sets are ruined and stuff like that because I was like drawing so much power, and it was normally between 110 and 120 volt outlet, but they were estimating I was like bringing it down to like 80 and 90 volts.
That is damaging to electronic gear.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I moved from Stanbury because half that town wants my head on a pole. I have the feeling.
Now you're a free man again, out of the pokey, and ready to begin experiments I've just learned all over again. You're going to do this again, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
Let's say that you produced a time machine, Michael, and you actually managed to go either forward or reverse in time. What would you use it for?
Heck, there's possibilities are endless. Pretty much.
I've really enjoyed watching videos and reading stories about this mad Marc Marcum. I think he's a fantastic character. I think he's a very, very clever man. There's too many sort of lies been told about him, things that actually haven't happened. I think he's a great character. He's never one to have sort of sought out any fame. He was just telling told a lot of his stories to this Art Bell, who was hosted his own show on Coast to Coast in the States. Art Bell was kind of the one who sort of sought out Marc Marcum. Marc never really sort of came to him looking for sort of fame and things like that. Some of the stories are fantastic. He's a very clever man, very clever man. Yeah, if you ever get time, you should really go and read about this man. I think he's brilliant. He had some fantastic ideas. I think he was well ahead of a lot of other people in the field. And him and Art Bell kind of really bounced off each other. Art Bell sort of knew his stuff as well, and he could tell that Marc Marcum wasn't lying. He's kind of gone off the radar a little bit over the last few years, but he is still around. At the end of his story he sort of disappeared into this time traveling machine and was never seen again. But he was sort of found back in the past, deceased. But none of this is true. He's still around today. I think he's more than likely working in some sort of government operation because of such a great mind. I think they've probably utilised his skills, so he's not really able to talk too much anymore. But yeah, honestly, I really think you should go and really read more about him. And these videos are great, but they don't tell the whole story. So yeah, please go and read more about him.
So I keep seeing that randonut thing all over TikTok, and I really want to try it out. So I just downloaded the app, and I found a location that's like 1.5 miles by my house.
This is why you don't go randonauting when you don't know what you're doing. TikTok user Taylor Vasquez wanted to try the app out for herself. And if you don't know, this app gives you random coordinates based on your own manifestations. And while the science behind it is unproven, that didn't stop Taylor from manifesting something near her home where she saw strange pictures that she couldn't explain. But here's the first clip, and let me know what you think.
Alright, so I think I gotta go this way down a creek. Alright, this is what I found so far. Pretty creepy. I'll go see what that is. Okay, so I just opened up one of the photos, and it's whatever the f that is. Then we have these random 3. This one's It's Your Birthday with the snowman with, I don't know. And these 2 I just put together. It's like, play with me. Alright, I think it was just my imagination. I think I'm just hearing shit, but I'm trying to read these. I swear I'm friendly. Play with me. I swear I'm friendly. Play with me.
Now, after her first video went viral, a viewer pointed out something that she didn't see while she was there. And while Taylor doesn't have an active TikTok account anymore, she did end up going back to the same spot and finding a notebook. But I'll leave that for part 2 if you want it. But here's what she caught on camera.
No one was with me, and tell me if you guys think that looks like a ghost child, because I don't know. But I didn't know if she photoshopped it or not. So I went to my videos and I screenshotted the exact part that she shows right there. And I see the face too.
Every sort of experience that I've heard and read about of this randonauting seems to be a negative experience. I think it's well sort of best to steer clear of this. It always seems to be something creepy or horrific happens to everyone who goes out to these locations. So I think it's best left alone.
This is a robot that is being made by Figure AI. This is their robot Figure 01.
Hey, Figure 1, what do you see right now?
I see a red apple on a plate in the center of the table, a drying rack with cups and a plate, and you standing nearby with your hand on the table.
Already, I'm kind of blown away here. The way that he's talking is very human-like.
Sure thing.
So he asks him for something to eat. Look at the way that he manipulated that apple.
Great. Can you explain why you did what you just did while you pick up this trash?
On it. So I gave you the apple because it's the only edible item I could provide you with from the table.
Wow. Wow.
Great. So Based on the scene right now, where do you think the dishes in front of you go next?
The dishes on the table, like that plate and cup, are likely to go into the drying rack next.
Great, can you put them there?
Of course.
Wow.
All right, so how do you think you did?
I think I did pretty well. The apple found its new owner, the trash is gone, and the tableware is right where it belongs.
I agree. Thanks, Figure One.
You're welcome. If there's anything else you need help with, just let me know.
Here, I'm gonna blow y'all's mind. This robot in particular isn't just being developed for home use. It's actually right now being deployed in a BMW factory to assemble cars. And they're like, okay, well, if this robot actually does well, we're going to replace all our robots, you know, the big arm things that kind of, with these robots because they're more ambidextrous and smooth. And I think that that is nutty. So they're already being deployed. I was saying or thinking something along the lines of like, in about 20 to 25 years, we would actually see robots like this in the home. Judging by how fast this has been coming along, I give it about 10 years. And here's the thing, too. In those 10 years, I am 100% certain that this is only going to become more human.
If this video is real, this is one of the most fantastic pieces of machinery I think I've ever seen. It is quite scary, but you've got to really appreciate the work that has gone into this. The vocabulary on this is unbelievable. The dexterity of its fingers and everything about it is fantastic, but it is quite scary. I mean, if one of these things was to really grow a consciousness, as it were, we are sort of heading down a real rabbit hole here. But yeah, as engineering goes, I think it is incredible, absolutely incredible, the way it talks, the way it interacts with the person talking to him. It really does. If you wore a blindfold and you were listening to it, it's very difficult to sort of tell the difference between this machine and a human being. It's fantastic. It really is where we've come over the last sort of couple of decades. It's the skill and engineering that's gone into something like this is truly unbelievable. But at the same time, it is terrifying that, I mean, there's nobody watched Terminator.
Hey guys, check out this amazing image, which seems to be surfacing the internet. No one really knows where the image came from, but others are saying it came from a military source who secretly pulled out his phone and captured a picture of what looks like a flying type of extraterrestrial. Some people are calling it a gray and saying it's an android. Others are calling it a demonic creature. Whatever this is, it's kind of creepy looking. I've never seen anything like this before. Could this be an elaborate hoax or some sort of AI image? Or could this be a picture of a real extraterrestrial secretly captured by a military official at Area 51? Comment below, what do you guys think? Also, don't forget to share, like, and repost. Support the channel. Thanks, guys.
Always a bit skeptical of these photos that just appear from nowhere, no evidence to suggest where they've come from or who took them. This UAP really does resemble the Jellyfish UAP that appeared a few months ago. Haven't actually shown a video on it on here because the channel sort of came after it, but yeah, if you go and seek that video out, it's quite interesting. It's sort of an infrared video of this. It really does look to me like one of the drones, the Empire's drones from Star Wars, just sort of floating along, sort of look like kind of 6 feet in the air. And this photo really does resemble this image from this video. So yeah, that's worth going to look at. I'm not sure about this one, just because of it just appeared from nowhere. I think it could be. I think it's doctored. To be honest with you, I think it's a. I think it is a fake. It looks too similar to this thing that was filmed a few months ago. So, in my personal opinion, I think this one is fake. Okay, everyone, I'm going to wrap that video up for today. Hope you've enjoyed. If you have, again, please leave a like. Please leave a comment. It'd be great if you could subscribe. And yeah, I hope you have enjoyed. And if there's anything you want to ask me, if you want to make any comments, that'd be fantastic. If you want to tell me about your experience randonauting, that'd be amazing. If anyone's done it and want to have a chat about that, fantastic. Anyway, I really hope you've enjoyed. If you have, hopefully see you on the next one.